Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Next Great Car Era, a podcast by EVTUNERS. Petrolhead turned Chargehead Tim Aylen has been into fast and loud cars since he was little. He's recently joined his passion of cars and the environment together, going on a journey of building an exciting electric sports car, the TVR Wedgie, using used batteries and a Tesla drive unit. He's vlogging this build, EV shows, visits to specialists, and other projects like a modified Tesla Model 3, the rusty Tesla. Also, a crazy 1970s trike that is nothing short of a danger on three wheels. Today, we sat down to chat all things electric car. Enjoy. So, Tim, I've been talking with you online for some time now, watching Chargeheads, and it's been really cool to watch that grow and to see what you've been doing and see the videos on your channel. But this is the first time we've got to actually like chat online in person, so to speak. So really excited for that.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked about it. Welcome to the UK. And no, it's great that you're enjoying the videos. I'm trying to, with the channel, trying to make it fun, entertaining, and also informative where I can make it informative. Whether that's with experts, because if anyone's watched my channel before, I'm certainly no expert, but I definitely make up for it with passion and excitement. Um, but yeah, no, I absolutely love it, and I'm glad you enjoy it too, and so do a couple of other people, thankfully.
Yeah, definitely. So where did you get the idea for Chargeheads? I mean, I love the name. It's a little tongue in cheek, right? Petrolhead to Chargehead. Were
Of
you
course.
previously the Petrolhead and now you're the Chargehead, or how did that all come about?
Wow. Okay. Well, I've always been a massive car person. From the age of goodness me, early teen years. There's this special book in the UK called The Parker's Guide, and I used to look through the book to work out what was the fastest car I could get for the lowest insurance group, so it wouldn't cost me too much in
Ooh,
insurance. Once I hit that sort of 17, because in the UK it's 17 once you're allowed to have a provisional and driving license. So it started at an early age of me getting into that, and yeah, it just blossomed from there really. A list of fairly decent list of cars, and yeah, I did have the nickname Turbo. uh, I think that's more not to do with the turbo cars that I had necessarily, but the way that I am, I tend to do things quite fast. Um, yeah, not everything, but if you know what I mean. But
head first
but
and just like in it, right? Just go for it.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And yeah, I've been massively passionate about cars. In terms of where it started, um, I'll tell you where it kind of began for me, and this might sound a bit strange to a lot of people into electric cars, but everyone, always been into Top Gear, wheeler dealers, and kind of normal programs, car enthusiast programs. It was
Sure.
Gas Monkey. Gas Monkey started me getting into thinking. I know, Sacre Bleu. It's a bit of a strange one to mention, and I just got really excited. Think, do you know what? He's built an amazing brand there, um, and it was quite enjoyable to watch. I was thinking, do you know what? That's amazing, and I didn't think much of it. And then I started watching videos in the UK and America. Stuff like EV West videos, some of the electric classic car stuff, Zero EV. Some of their videos as well. And there was quite a few videos on we've got a YouTube channel, and you guys might see it a bit over there. It's Fully Charged.
Yeah.
They did have some really cool videos, like Johnny Smith, who used to be one of the presenters, went to go and see the company Icon. Do you know the one I mean?
They have the
Yeah.
really cool like fresh build of the Mustang, right?
Yeah, and they've also got oh goodness, I'm not as good with my American brands, but they've got like a big, like sedan style, rustic looking EV conversion. It's literally brand new underneath. I'll have to find the name of the car, but I'm sure people will know which one I mean.
Sure,
And
sure.
yeah, it kind of, I was like, wow, this is brilliant. This is new. This is exciting. And it was also because I really wanted to try and kind of bring my environmental passion with the car passion together, which at the time was a bit bonkers. And it was
Sure.
actually one of my friends. I was probably talking about environmental things. And he said, "Hang on, Tim, you've got a 5 litre V8 TVR." I was like, "Oh yeah, that doesn't really work." And that kind of got me on a mission. You know what? I need to first of all, I need to get an electric car. But do you know what? What electric car do I buy? You know, what can be an exciting electric car? And at this point, I hadn't driven many electric cars. And then Chargeheads became, and I started the process of deciding what electric car I should build. I must build one. You know, that's the best way. Build unique, exciting electric cars, but with used parts. And it all went completely bonkers from there. Really, certainly financially. Um,
Snowballs.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's how it began really. Um, and I was really, really fortunate because I got to speak to some amazing people in the UK. The EV conversion scene in the UK is everyone's really, really friendly. And because only till probably more recently with electric classic cars going on Discovery and their YouTube channel has exploded recently. I think they're over 120 odd thousand subscribers now, so they're getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was really helped because I managed to go and visit a lot of these EV conversion places with the help of my cameraman at the time, Stuart, who's always been behind the camera. So there were very different videos back then when I started the YouTube channel. But I basically thought, you know what, the Chargehead's name came about because in the UK, like in America, you've got gearheads, right?
Sure.
And
Yep.
petrolhead. There's quite a well-known brand in this country called piston heads. So I was kind of racking my brain. I was
Hmm.
thinking, how can I think of a good, like, trying to make a bit of a brand around it. Really, I thought, you know what, charge heads. I was thinking electro heads. That was actually taken, but I didn't think that was a suited the type thing that I was doing. And I thought, charge heads had a bit of a ring to it. And I thought, you know what, let's do that. So got the website. Um, I've even started a limited company now just to get all the bases there if it does grow into something bigger. But main promote what amazing things you can do with EV conversions and also modified EVs. So managed to go and see lots of companies to learn a lot because my my technical knowledge of electric cars was extremely poor back then, extremely poor. As a petrol head or a car enthusiast, I could uh, change the oil, change air filter, do the basics, change brakes, etc. But electric cars are whole new level. So
Yeah.
I am starting to learn it, and hoping to do a course with Ralph, if people don't know, Ralph Hosier, he's the one that's doing my EV conversion, and he does level 1, 2, 3, and I think there's a fourth now as well, accredited course on EV maintenance and how to take batteries apart and that sort of thing. So next year, that is the plan, to try and increase my knowledge rather than just me going, yeah, it's a shiny thing, you know, just to put a bit more weight behind the knowledge of the channel as well.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. The parts are different, especially around drivetrain, but I've come across the notion, especially online, people are like, "Oh, you can't do anything with EVs. They are what they are." especially think of like a manufactured EV, not something special like a swap, but a Tesla or a Leaf. And people are like, well, it is, you can't do things with it. But I think that actually is just missing the point, and that you just do it different. Right.
Mm.
So like you are looking still anything with the suspension, with the wheels, with the tires, weight, aerodynamics. And then eventually I'm really excited to see things, and you're starting to see it a little bit now with like open source. People are hacking into these
Yeah.
drive units, but it reminds me of like flashing turbo cars where you would go in and you reflash the ECU.
Mm.
It also reminds me of hacking computers back in the day where you could go in and you like overclock the CPU so it goes faster. But then the more
Mm.
you overclock it, you got to now put liquid cooling on it and you have to do other things to make it stable. And I could totally see that in the next 10 years being something that takes off. People will figure out a way to tune EVs and to build
Yeah.
EVs and
Yeah.
customize them.
I think back because I've had a lot of Jack cars. If people have watched my channel before, lots of JDM cars, because in Japan they're right-hand drive. So Jack cars have always come over to the UK for a number of years, and they've got that 112 mile an hour speed limit, and so people breaking that and being able to take those off. So yeah, it's all possible, and um, quite interestingly, one of the guys that I met up with and done a video or two with is a chap called Paul Compton, sorry, and he's seen as the EV guru in the UK. I mean, his first EV conversion was something like 20 years ago,
Wow.
and he went out to America, funnily enough, and they had an EV converted Porsche. Oh God, what's the one that electric classic cars have done? I've got his. He's actually given me a load of his old stuff from years ago. All these old school magazines when it was really, really niche.
Yeah,
Many, many years ago. Because people have been doing it for a long time, but with
totally.
the with the lithium batteries coming on board and then becoming more efficient and the power density becoming a lot greater. So how much
Change the game.
how much performance and range. Um, they were tuning 914, I think it is Porsche. They were tuning motors already, and that was something that I was considering doing. Unfortunately, Ralph hasn't got any experience in that field, but um, there is ways of tuning. Or to be fair to Ralph, I think he has done it before. But yeah, Paul has been doing it for a long, long time. So the original plan was to tune up a Leaf motor,
Mm.
but it's been a real journey with the EV conversion. Um, yeah, because I've changed my mind on the motor many times. If you've seen the whole series so far, but yeah, like we were going to do a Leaf motor, tune it up, but unfortunately the gearbox that was going to be mated to the prop shaft wasn't rated to take the power that we were looking for. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I should just try and find. I was stuck at that point. I didn't know where to go, and then out of nowhere, someone sent me a link for this modified Tesla small drive unit to connect to the prop shaft, which again is a very rare thing to do. So I'm somewhat of a guinea pig. It
Mm.
feels like, but yeah, tuning of electric motors is possible. It's just with these newer cars. I mean, they're doing it on Nissan Leafs already. Um, all they do is they change the inverter or the information on the inverter. You have to have a big enough battery for it to cope with the extra power through the motor. But there's a chap called Dala, Dala, in Scandinavia. I want to say Finland, and he's already been doing the tuning on the Nissan Leaf. Um, and yeah, I think he's got 350Z Nismo wheels on it as well in black. And it's a black car, so it looks really cool. And he's doing all sorts of matter of stuff. Again, very technical, which it does. A lot of it does go straight over my head, to be honest. Because, like I said, my background's sort of sales and marketing and buying, to be honest. So, but yeah, no, the possibilities are definitely going to come out of the woodwork for sure. Um, and yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see all the possibilities in the near future. Although saying that, there's so many options for the Tesla, isn't there? I know you've got the performance model, Dan.
Yes,
So
that's right.
I've only the mere long range, you see. So but
It's still faster than, at least in this neck of the woods, it's faster than 95% of everything on the road.
yeah, that's true. I mean, the options with the Tesla Model 3 is obviously the Tesla performance upgrade. And then is it is it? I always pronounced it. There's the Ghost upgrade and that sort of thing. Funnily enough, our Tesla was at Tesla getting fixed. There was a bush that needed doing. And you know what dealers do? They probably didn't do it on purpose, but they lent me a performance one. And you know what, Dan? It wasn't the performance; it was the track mode. Because
Ah,
because I'm an ex drifter, you see.
uh-huh. Oh,
So yeah. I've had three Nissan. I don't know what you call them over there, but I had three import Nissan Silvia S14s.
yeah, yeah.
I've had an R33 Skyline, GTST. So I used to do a lot of drifting.
All of the
So
things everyone wants.
well,
Skylines you can't really get over here. Although there's a few.
no,
There's a few, but
well,
you see them at car shows every now and again, and big crowds. People are, oh my gosh, a Skyline.
do you
Yeah.
know what? I had my Skyline about 8, 9 years ago, and I bought it cheap. I mean, it was do the conversion yourself, but I think I swapped it for my S14, which is naturally aspirated but quite heavily modified, and it was my daily and my drift car. And I swapped it for that and £1,000, what, £1,000. I don't know. The exchange rate's awful at the moment. I think back 15 years, it used to be £2 to $1. I think it's
Yeah.
£1 to $1 now.
That's about the
But
time when I was there last, and it was not in our favor, but it was still a good time.
well, yeah. So
I
I
did a
think I
withdrawal from the
ended up.
bank. I'm like, man, that went down fast.
Well, then I bought that car for 3.5 grand. I think it's not a bad example. It was a drift car. It was probably about 350 odd brake horsepower. But I think I sold it for about 3,500 quid. And they're going for like 15 to 20 grand now. All the Jap cars that I've had, they're bonkers money. But I bought Jap cars back then because they were good value.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I wouldn't buy one now because I say good value when he's spending a stupid amount on electrifying a broken British sports car. But
Different
but yeah,
categories.
yeah, true. I mean, I am very, very tight, as we call it in the UK. So I'm very careful with my money normally. But when it comes to cars, it just it just goes horribly wrong. Unfortunately, I've got a problem, Dan. Have you got that problem too?
I have had that problem, and I may still have it, but
Yeah.
so far I have resisted the urge to crack open the Model 3 that I had. I've had it about a year now, and my plans is to focus on driving. So the track mode, right? I bought a helmet earlier this year. I'm going to probably start with autocross, but I'm really interested in learning racecraft. And at this point, the car is way faster than I am. And as my skill, hopefully, knock on wood, starts coming up, then I expect that bug to bite me again. But the last time I really had it was about 10 years ago. I had a turbo Eclipse. I don't know if they have those.
No.
Yeah.
No,
But
I
you've
can
seen
remember
them.
it from the original Fast and Furious film, The Eclipse.
That's the same one. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it broke just as often. So that's where I learned most of my mechanical skills, was on forums trying to figure out, why is this not working? But now, even at the best of times with that, which I did a whole new long block, bigger turbo, bigger intercooler, rebuilt all the drive lines to handle it. On the best of days, it was slow compared to the Tesla.
That's the thing. I think about the money that I used to have a Honda Integra DC2.
Nice.
So it would have been, in this country we have a Type R, but it was a Jap import. So it would have been the same as an Acura Integra GSR.
Yeah. Yep.
So I had the B18 C1 engine, and I decided this was when it was £2 to the dollar. It'd be a great idea to get a turbo kit over to the UK. And yeah, I lost my license for speeding, and I thought it was a great idea that while I'd lost my license to fit a turbo kit to my car. Yeah, it makes
Since
complete
you're not
sense.
driving, yeah, makes sense.
Might as well make the most of the time not driving
Yeah.
to increase the performance by at least 100 brake horsepower.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that was a bit of a money pit. I mean, that had AEM ECU, Quaife limit slip diff, T4 turbo on it. It had quite a lot. It
Oh,
had
nice.
rods, valve train. It had you name it. But it was a really sad story actually, because my mate that helped me build the engine, we were on the way back from I think running it in, and he was behind me in his BMW 5 Series, and we go around this roundabout, and this guy in this truck cut me up, and I stamped on the brakes, and my mate went straight into the back of me.
Oh no.
Like, had Buddy Club body kit on it as well. Yeah, that was a sad day, but in hindsight, it wasn't a bad thing because I ended up selling it for parts. I got some really good money for the parts. I ended up selling the engine in Holland, in the Netherlands, for like 4 grand. It was crazy.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I know. And I spoke to the company later on. And they said, "Yeah, we never fitted it for the guy in the end. He just never turned up." I was like, "Okay, random." But yeah, and then after that, that's when I started getting into rear-wheel drive cars, which, in my opinion, front-wheel drive is all good and fun, but when it comes to yeah, a bit more fun, it's about a bit of sideways action as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yeah,
um, but
no
yeah, no,
doubt.
I really want to get some sort of drift mode on the Tesla Model 3 so I can go to a couple of drift days because modified EVs in this country, Dan, it is, I see what's going on over in the US. I'm like, wow, look at what's going on over there. Mainly Teslas, of course, from what I can tell, but it's not very big in the UK. It really isn't. Yeah, there's pockets here and there, but it's pretty small, and hence why I wanted to start, Chargeheads UK.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's where it all began, just to get more people, and it is more, it is from an environmental point of view, because as far as I'm concerned, from the information that's out there, electric cars are better for the environment when you add up all the things of uh, extraction of oil, refining of oil, transporting of oil, and then the emissions of oil, and all the things that go with all the many parts with the car. Obviously we know that some electric cars, because they're all different, you can't generalize too much, that it does take a certain number of miles before they're then um, better from a carbon footprint than an ICE vehicle. But
Sure.
um, the Tesla Model 3 that we bought had done 57,000 miles, which was pretty high for a 3-year-old car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done 66,000 now. And yeah, absolutely loving it. And although I was very tempted to, because what's happened in the UK recently is, you might have seen from my recent video, electric prices of used cars have just done this, because electric prices of electric have gone up massively. So they've gone
Mm-hmm.
from like 15p up to like 32p. So they've doubled. It's still better than driving a ICE car, uh, as long as you charge at home and you haven't got a really inefficient electric car.
Sure.
Um, but unfortunately, the media tend to have a bit of an agenda in our country a lot of the time, for whatever reason. There are many. I'm not going to get too
They
political.
live on clicks. All media,
Yeah,
their
they
lifeblood
love
is clicks.
They love that click action. Um, so yeah, I thought, do you know what? I could sell the Tesla because I did have an offer on it, but then I thought, do you know what? It would have been a faff. I'd have had to get new insurance. Then we'd have had to have an interim car while the prices went down, which is what I envisioned happening. I could get a lower mileage performance in 6 months' time. And I still think that is the case. But then I was thinking, do you know what? It's going to be more fun modifying a long range. And I do really want to rack up the miles on this car to dispel a few myths around electric cars, because that was
Yeah.
really important for me. Because honestly, I do promote my channel a bit on some of the car enthusiasts Facebook groups, etc. And the number of people is just like, oh, as soon as it's out of warranty, throw it away. And I'm just like, oh no. You just, there's so many, if the batteries do get that bad, and from, again, the information mainly from America, from what I've seen, it's only like 10% degradation
Yeah,
after
it's not
about
that
100,000
bad.
miles. But you've got second life with batteries, whether it's solar storage or manner of other things. So yeah, I just want to dispel a few myths and just kind of heavily promote it. Really, that's the whole idea. Just have a bit of a, I don't know, make a bit of a stand. I suppose that's the plan. That's the
And
plan.
have some fun while you're
And
doing it.
have some fun, of
Yeah.
course. Have a stand, have a fun, and make a fun car that's gonna make me, put a big fat smile on my face. Really.
Let's dive into the wedgie a little bit. Because some people might have not seen the videos yet. And so can you talk a little bit? You started saying you changed your mind on the motor, but what else what else is going on with that? At the end of the day, you're going to have a rear wheel drive track weapon and maybe something really fun for the weekends.
Dan, I don't think it's going to be a track weapon, to be honest.
No?
I think no, maybe a little
No,
bit of
no drifting in it at all.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna have to do some drifting.
Yeah.
I see track and drifting like very, very different.
Oh, okay.
And in this country, this is why I sold my drift cars and went a slightly different route, is because it was seen as being a very low grade style of motorsport
Mm.
back then. I mean, we're talking sort of, God, 8 years ago, and it was a lot of chav motorsport, as we call it in this country. But it's obviously exploded even more since I've been out of the game. But there weren't many places to do it. I'm very lucky. I live next to a very no tribal quarter mile strip called Santapod in Northamptonshire. It's like the best known quarter mile strip in the UK, and it's
Oh, that's
literally down the
awesome.
road. So on a summer's day, I can hear the top fuel dragsters from my house, because they
Neat.
are loud, as you
Yeah.
know. And they used to do drift what you brung days there. In fact, they still do. And I was in a petrol station the other day, and it was, I won't name the petrol stations, but I was filling up my camper van, and this Toyota Celica Supra pulled up next to me. Do you get those in the US?
Yeah, the Celica Supra is like an older one. Like I want to say,
It's like the Mark II Supra.
yeah. We get those. There's not very many left on the road,
No,
but
no,
they
they're
were
quite
over here.
rusted away. And
Yep.
this one was clean, and it was
Wow.
fully caged up. And I looked across, I was like, oh, absolutely love them. And I was, dribbling on the on the wing, and I was having a chat with the guy there, and it was like, yeah, we're going to drift what you brung. I was like, oh, no way, I used to go there back in the day. But
Uh-huh.
there's a few tracks that used to do it, but a few tracks banned it because people were just being, as I would call it, we're allowed to swear. I'm going to say it anyway,
Sure.
dickheads.
Yeah.
People are being dickheads.
That's
So
very
yeah,
accurate.
yeah, they sport it for other people, unfortunately. Um, so so yeah, so start the TVR wedgie. The original idea, I went through a load of cars in my head, narrowed it down to a Toyota MR2, Mark One and Mark Two, because
Hmm.
I've had a Mark One, and I love the Mark II. And I used to sell the Mark III when I used to sell cars at Toyota. And I thought, you know what, putting a motor in one of those would be loads of fun.
Yeah.
Um, and I was thinking Porsche 944, which in hindsight, apparently they're really easy to convert. Um, and then for some stupid reason, I thought, you know what, I've got a TVR at the moment, And if people haven't heard of the TVR brand, it's British UK car. I think you got my version, but in a 2.8 V6 form. And I basically thought, it's got to be a TVR. It's got to be I wanted it to be a soft top. I wanted it to be rear-wheel drive, and it had to be kind of. It's a lot of money that goes into a car like this, so it has to be a bit unique.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, it's got to be a TVR, and I chose the TVR Tasman 350i, whatever you want to call it. It has many names: the Wedge, the Wedge E. And yeah, so I picked that car. So the original plan was we'll get a Tesla Model 3 motor
Hmm.
because it's a permanent magnet, it's very efficient, very powerful. We'll put that where the diff is, and we'll put the drive shafts, drive the rear wheels. It'll be easy. Piece of
Piece of
cake.
cake.
Piece of cake. So I was very wet behind the ears when it come to EV conversion. I didn't understand that in our country, and this is very, very different in our country to the US. You cannot, once you've changed the engine and gearbox, you cannot change the chassis, cut it. You can't even look at the chassis. Um,
Really?
you can't touch the chassis basically, or if you do, you have to go through a vigorous test. And when I say vigorous test, they test each one of your battery boxes. It's on one of my episodes where myself and Ralph explain it. And I'll have to remember the name of the test in a second because I can't remember it right now. But it's basically they set fire to your battery box just to check the strength of it, and it's just a rigorous test which costs about £6,000 each battery
Wow.
box. So it's big money. Um, so we thought, you know what, that did cause some complications. A further complication was the actual car that I chose has got inboard brakes. Now I never knew what inboard brakes were. Do you know what inboard brakes are?
Not under that name. No, I've never heard of that before.
So they
I
are
know disc
brakes.
and drum.
So you got discs or drums on the hubs, right?
Yeah.
These are discs which are literally next to the diff,
Oh,
mounted on the
interesting.
diff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
So I couldn't fit a motor there without completely redesigning the car. I probably, as Ralph would put it, I probably chose the hardest car to convert. But that has been, I think it's been interesting, and financially, it's ruining me. But it is
As
really
hobbies
kind of
do.
as they do. But I think it is kind of. I hope it's helping a lot of people with EV conversions because you don't. A lot of the things that you might not take into consideration. So hopefully, I'm saving everyone else money,
Yeah.
which is good. Um, so then it was like back to the drawing board. What do we do? Do we fit an electric motor to the gearbox? The old net gain motor, which
Hmm.
is the kind of traditional, Hyper 9 motor.
Yeah.
But I was having been out, I visited a company called Eco Classics, which was the company that was originally going to do the EV conversion, and they've done lots of cars. They've done a Citroen DS, which you might have heard of before, with the one with the hydroelastic suspension. Um, and they've done all sorts of classics. They're quite well known in the UK for their conversions, and they only really do new motors. And they recommended Netgain Hyper 9. I got taken out in a Triumph Stag, another British sports car, with the Hyper 9. And, he put his foot down. And I was like, it's not really quick enough. Because I'm a bit of a power whore, if you like. Yeah, he goes, oh, no, I'll take you out again. And he gave it everything. I was like, spending this kind of money, I wanted it to be fast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and another complication with them is I was adamant I wanted to use used motor and a used battery, and they didn't want to do that. So that's when I started contacting other people and got hold of Ralph. And Ralph is well known for doing lots of weird and wonderful one-off conversions. I used to work with Mitsubishi a lot, and he's been on TV a few times in the UK. Um, do you know? Have you ever heard of the boy band Boyzone before?
No.
No, I think it's mainly UK band. He's worked with a famous boy band guy he's famous for doing drifting as well, funny enough, and singing. And yeah, he's done a few TV shows and stuff like that. So people might have seen him on Scrap Car Supercar, they called it, and a few other things. So I got talking with him, and he was up for doing it. And funnily enough, I'd done a video with him prior about EV conversion safety, which we did, it was quite a good video, but it was in the early days, so yeah, could have been a bit better because I'm getting better all the time with regards to you know, because I've never done any videoing before, any editing, because I do a lot of my own editing as well.
Nice.
So yeah, then we started with that. So couldn't fit the Tesla 3 motor. We didn't do the Hyper 9. We were a bit stuck. We started looking at Cascadia motor, which
Hmm.
to this day, back then, I don't think anyone would have heard of a Cascadia motor. But now you see what Cascadia are doing, and I think they're working in conjunction with a couple of American companies now, putting out some exciting stuff. And they've got their race car, which has gone up Pikes Peak and stuff. So we were looking at all these new motors, and I was thinking, come on, Ralph, let's just go back to the original plan. And this is, I did, to be fair, waste a bit of Ralph's time looking at these new motors. Although I'm sure he counted it up, but I had to go back to used. And like I said, we were looking at this Leaf motor, so tuning the Leaf motor with the Zero EV, who are now Felton, the EV conversion part supplier. And yeah, that gearbox wasn't powerful enough. It probably was powerful enough, but they wouldn't rate it that high. And then lo and behold, someone sent me this link for the Tesla small drive unit modified, and that was from guys in Bulgaria, which was sorry, not Bulgaria, sorry, Romania. So yeah, it was that was a bit of a stab in the dark, really, because when you're sending quite a few £1,000s over to a country that is quite far away, you start to get a bit nervous. But the motor did come, which is good. So yeah, we've got the batteries now. We've got used batteries out of an MG, which MG was a traditional UK brand. It was like the sporty brand of Rover. I'm sure you've heard of MGs before.
Yep. Hey, just a quick note, everyone. This is when Zoom had a technical issue, and so we're having to stitch together two different clips. So here we are, right back into it, talking about MG. And we were just talking about MG. You said you were grabbing the batteries out of the MG, and I have heard of them.
Yeah, so it's off a company called EVBreakers. It's again a very interesting. It's all these people I get to meet. It's fantastic. Although I've not physically met this guy yet. This guy, his dad owned a breakers yard, and he came back from university and said, "You know what? I'm going to start breaking electric cars." And the guy in Northern Ireland, he breaks specifically electric cars, named company EVBreakers, and he did a great deal on this full pack of, I think it's 44 kilowatt hour pack.
Wow, it's a big pack.
MG joules. So that was great. So we've got the batteries, we've got the motor. The motor's now fitted. What is left to go? We've recently had the Orion BMS2 arrive, which is the battery management system. We have got a lot of the cooling bits have arrived. Something that I'm just about to order is, I did originally order a DC to DC and charger, but we've sent that back because a company that, again, which we went to go and see, a company called Eco Classics, a guy called Nick, he has got an amazing setup. He's very well known for doing the EV converted Chesil Speedster, which is a remake of the Porsche 356 convertible. So they do like a kit car, an electric version. He did the electric drivetrain, and also he did the electric drivetrain for the Caterham, and he did the electric drivetrain for a company called Design 911. And I got to drive this classic electric 911, which was bonkers. People might have heard of the Everati electric 911, which is about a
Yes.
quarter of a million. It's apparent. Well, on paper, it's very similar performance, and I got to drive that, and it was it was awesome.
Wow.
Actually, which is very exciting. He's designed a single-seater electric um, race car. Um, so yeah, if anyone's interested, check out Eco Classics. They're doing a lot of exciting stuff. So he has got this DC to DC, which is also a charger, which is also vehicle to load. So I'm going to have vehicle to load on the TVR.
Oh,
Do you
very
know
cool. So you can hook
you
it
know
up to
you
your
know
house. I lost your audio there. Can you hear me? There you go. I hear you
You
now.
got me.
That's like being able to use it. You could hook up your house to it as a battery backup or uh, something like that, right?
Yeah, so that's there's vehicle to house. I was only watching the video on it just before we came on actually. There's vehicle to grid, which goes back into the grid. So you can help a bit like the Tesla power station works with the Tesla Powerwalls. Um, you got the power to house, so it'll power your house, which is very useful, I think, in certainly a lot of parts of the world where you can have blackouts, etc.
Sure.
This is going to be vehicle to load. Um, so what that will enable me to do is, if I wanted to set up a bouncy castle next to the TVR, I could power the air to keep that going, or run a fridge, or I could charge my Tesla with it. And the whole idea with that is I could use it as a second battery for solar. So I've ordered. I know we live in the UK, but I've actually ordered solar panels because they were doing a deal in September. And unfortunately, the lead time is about 12 months at the moment in this country. It's crazy with the supply chain,
Yeah.
which is on effect. I don't know how bad it is in the
We're
US,
dealing
but
with the same stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Gotta
horrendous.
wait forever for anything good.
And but yeah, so that's going to give. Um, so I have the solar, and then I'll have a very smallish house battery. But with that, I was going to connect it to the TVR as well, or the Tesla. So we've always got that extra um, battery to fill up. So we're not putting it back into the grid because it costs in our house costs 32 pence per kilowatt hour. Um, don't know how much that is in cents, but they'll only give you like 6p back. So you might as well keep the electric, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so so yeah, that's an exciting thing that I've recently ordered for the car. Um, what else is going on with the TVR wedgie build? I think I might have someone who will be sponsoring the car and giving it a respray, because if anyone's watched the channel, um, she is in a bit of a sorry state at the moment. Um, you know, the car I bought cheap. The reason I bought this specific TVR was not only it was cheap, but it had a solid chassis. And TVRs, it's a glass fiber um, shell, and the tubular chassis tends to rot out and rust really badly. But this one was
Mm,
actually quite sturdy. But it had
nice.
18 owners, which is
Whoa.
a few.
That's
It
has to
was
be
also
some sort of
modified.
record.
It was also modified and had no service history. So, from my point of view, that stuff didn't matter
Right.
because it kind of made it more exciting for me, because it was gonna kind of reduce the number of purists after my blood. Um,
Good point.
but it's all fun. There's always going to be people that aren't going to like what I'm doing anyway. But yeah, that's life, isn't it?
That's how you know
Um,
you're doing something good.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, as far as I was concerned, the engine I managed to sell, the gearbox I managed to sell, but there was a massive fueling issue, and it would have cost about £4,000 to fix, to do it properly, and the car cost me 3,000. So it was that car was a write off in that respect, unless someone had the real know how to fix it cheap, which I don't think it's really going to happen. So
Sure.
so that's where we're at with the wedgie at the moment. Fingers crossed, it will be ready for, I'm hoping March time, ready for the new season, and I can get it out there and start driving it, basically. So yeah, and
That's
it's the idea
exciting.
is it's going to be my commuter vehicle as much as possible, where I can get away with it. So, and it should have. We've worked it out. It should have between, depending on all the variables with electric cars, between 100 and 150 mile range, which is fine.
Yeah,
You know?
that's really good. That's really good. I think a lot of conversions are more in the the 80 to 100. So you're kind of that 44 kilowatt battery pack is nice.
Yeah, I think we're not using a couple of the modules, but I think it's just over 40 kilowatt hours,
Okay.
which I think any more is going to start getting weighty, which would ruin the drivability. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see what it drives like, you know.
Hmm.
So only time will tell, I think, Dan. So, but yeah, it's I would, as you know, we've got the Tesla, or Rusty, as we call it,
That's
Rusty
right.
Tesla. Yeah. So for me, like Rusty is for me, not for everyone, like a traditional US name. Hey, Rusty, you know. Um,
I could see
but
that. I could see that.
well, the reason where it came from is we were lowering the car with some IBAC springs, and it was a bit of fun. Me and Ralph were doing in the workshop, and he was taking the mick, he was taking the piss, and he kept on saying, "Oh, there's a bit of rust there. There's a bit of rust there." Trying to poo-poo the Tesla, as people do.
Sure,
And I think,
sure.
but when it's like rust, hang on a minute, rusty, because obviously wedgie, rusty. Well, I thought, you know what, rusty Tesla, that sounds brilliant.
Just like that, it has a personality.
Yeah, although my kids are a bit upset because they liked calling it Poppy. Uh,
Poppy. Okay.
I wasn't into that. There we go. But yeah,
Rusty Poppy. They'll
I'd
probably
love to
still
do.
just keep calling it that.
It's got two names. It's two
Fair enough.
sides.
Yep, that's it.
Family. Yeah, the fast lane side. But I'd
Daily
love to
driver and
spend more.
weekend.
That's it. That's it. Bit Jekyll and Hyde. Um, I'd love to spend a bit more money on the Tesla, but the EV conversion's bleeding me dry. I'd love to put a different set of wheels on it. I'd love to get some, not promoted by anyone, but I'd love to get some KW suspension on it. Mountain Pass Performance do some nice stuff.
They do.
All I've got at the moment is the unplugged front splitter, the IBAC lowering springs, the Mountain Pass Performance spherical bearings. Put a little performance rear spoiler on it. So not massive mods, but it will come. It will come. I'm sure it'll have its time.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, but it's yeah, it's. I just need to make sure the TVR is done first. That was the main project, and Rusty is my wife's daily driver, so it can't be too ridiculous what we do. But I'm very keen to get some sort of drift mode on it. Very keen.
I think
Then
Mountain
take
Pass
it out
has
to,
something.
say again.
I think Mountain Pass has something.
Yes, there are a few things around, but then I want to just go down to the drift day, because you do not get electric cars down at the drift days. I go down at the drift day, they'd be like, "Who's this joker?" And obviously, none of the people that go there these days know that I used to drift, And I'm
Right.
confident I could show them a thing or two. Whether the Tesla will, I'm not sure how it would perform, but from what I've seen from drift videos of the